Dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, we're getting a lot of questions at the moment asking where to buy silver or gold, and of course there are many places in which you could, and this is not an endorsement, but we tend to use bullionbypost.com. They've got a wide range of gold and silver, and if you put in the code that we've listed here below, you'll get a 1 ounce silver coin on any order over £250. Very nice. Just in case our channel ever gets taken down from YouTube, which there's a possibility because we are challenging a number of things. If you go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, we'll keep you in touch as to what's going on. And please, as Justin always says, remember to subscribe and like and share with friends so that we can get the message out there. It's very important through a difficult time to get the truth out in a world that is not very true. And just remember, Jesus loves you, even if everybody else thinks you're a twat. Hi guys, today again I've got Jesse Perez Casanova from South Africa. He and I had our first chat a week or so ago, and it was so good we thought we'd do it again. Welcome, Jesse.
Hey Charlie, thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Same. You know, we're both trying to get the message out and trying to establish what the truth is.
Yeah, we are. You know, it is quite funny. I was very intense last time. Hopefully I can bring some of that passion back today. I definitely caused a bit of controversy in the comment section, but I think for the most part, people just misunderstood the urgency of the message I'm trying to relay.
Exactly. And the one thing that people will love is you're very passionate. And people, that's the reason I fell in love with the way you were going about it right from the start. Is you're very passionate, and there's nothing wrong with being passionate. Some people are very laid. I'm more laid back. You're very passionate. So the combination between us is pretty good.
I think so too. And the knowledge between us is also phenomenal. You know, we've just spent some time speaking about some undisclosed stuff in the beginning, and I get to know you more and more. And I must say, I really do enjoy peering into your perspective and your mind, Charlie.
And this is so important that you can look into my perspective, I can look into your perspective, and then we can take both perspectives and come up with something that's somewhere close to the truth, because we're looking at it from different perspectives.
Charlie, this is what I love about your show, and this is what I appreciate about you, is that you're open-minded to hear all sorts of information and then obviously be discerning and develop a bit better viewpoints. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. I think a lot of people actually should learn from that, because a lot of people have these belief systems of, you know, thinking, well, I know it all and this is it. And I'm coming forward and you coming forward and saying that, look, it's really not wise to jump to any final conclusions, because the truth is, yes, there's information out there. Yes, there's a whole lot of truths out there, but it really would be naive to jump to any total final conclusions.
Yeah, and if I look back in my life at the pleasure that I had of living in South Africa, I didn't understand the mentality of the black Bushmen, the Xhosas, the Zulus, until I went to Africa and actually went to see them. I couldn't learn about their mentality just online. Online didn't exist in those days, but by schooling. I had to go and be a part of them and understand them. And that's not just even in Johannesburg. That was in going into warm baths to the game reserves where they lived in the bush. They lived in that environment. And
oh, wow. So you had a full-on proper experience with our beloved native Bushmen, eh?
Totally. And the South Africans often say you can take him out of the bush, but you won't take the bush out of him. And, you know, and this is so true. When you go into the bush and meet them in their own environment, they're completely different. And then you start to understand. And that's what we're trying to do now in our life, is trying to establish the truth by looking into areas that we wouldn't normally look into. Normally you look into the television for information. Jesse and I have turned the television off, and we're looking in other places to find out the truth.
You know, Charlie, I was getting chills when you're speaking about the Bushmen because, you know, I think I actually finally get it now. You can take the Bushman out of the bush, but you can't take the bush out of the Bushman. And I'm sure you had a chance to learn about sort of their stories, their tradition, their ideologies, and their beliefs, and you understand their intricate connection towards nature
Yeah.
and the spirit of that. So, yeah, you know, that's deep within their DNA, within their culture, within their beliefs and their passed on stories. So that really resonated with me.
Well, you look at when we're trying to reset our moral compass. If you're in South Africa, you've got the Bushmen right there. If you're in Australia, you've got the Aborigines right there. If you're in New Zealand, you've got the Maoris right there. Whoops, I've got a little butterfly just come in there.
That's a sign of good luck, I'm sure. Metamorphosis, change.
Exactly, exactly. We've got the answers right there, and we just need to turn off our televisions and start looking.
But this is a big thing, Charlie, is that we disregard certain information, as you've just said. So, you know, whether it's our ancients, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, the Buddhists, the Hindus, these engravings, these temples, and even just in Africa, because, you know, let me tell you, and you probably know this story, but I'll share it with your audience anyway. You know, we had a situation of colonization take place with all along Africa, and particularly in South Africa. And what essentially happened is, you know, these guys, they either try to control you or they kill you. It's one of the others. And this is how 16 million Native Americans died when, you know, the English colonized America. But essentially the same thing happened to South Africa, and they wiped out these black people, but particularly their religions and their beliefs. And they you know, once they were so damaged and mentally in such disarray, they had come to sort of, you know, and this is what they do, Charlie, and I'm sure you're aware of mind control, right? They damage the daylights out of you. Mm-hmm. Then they come to you and they sort of resolve you with some sort of idea of salvation. Now, I'm a Christian man, but, you know, the Catholics, they're not good people. You know, I'm sure you understand Zabbatai Zevi, the satanic cult. They actually had thousands who had converted to Catholicism. Mm-hmm. At the time, in a certain agreement that was made. Mm-hmm. And they weren't Catholics themselves, but they masked themselves under any religion just so long as they could practice their secret religion. But nonetheless, they'd come to South Africa, and they just decimated these people's minds, man. And they'd come forward and they'd given them this Western, you know, white superiority complex. And all of a sudden it was condemned to look into this African religions, African ancient cultures, African ancient stories. And what happened is a lot of these, you could call them shamans. In South Africa, we call them sangomas. They had to go underground. And they had to go underground because they had to preserve the knowledge that was extremely under threat, you know, because these crusaders were essentially just wiping out these pagans or whatever it is they called them to justify their actions. And these sangomas went underground. And, you know, when you look at the stories of these African men, it's hidden from our own history books in our own schools, Charlie. Yeah. Our own African people today have literally had a severed connection of their very deep, intricate African history. And Africa is a long-running place. So you can imagine the amounts of cultural heritage and stories that have been lost, but had to have been preserved. And fortunately enough, I've been bestowed the gift of one of these great sangomas that passed on the first day of our lockdown, who literally, I mean, it's crazy, man. When you look into what these Africans are speaking about, you're speaking about extraterrestrials, you're speaking about, wow, all sorts of things in their language, you know, in the words in their language, they're speaking about star constellations, star brothers and sisters, spaceships and stuff. And people's perception of Africa is very shaped by the television, as you've just said, television. Mm-hmm. And people have developed a very basic view of how vast the mindsets of African people are. And it troubles my heart. So we're actually doing our best to preserve that knowledge and get it out there. And I'll keep you updated on our efforts within that. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, they're a beautiful people. When I started to engage with them in Africa, it was very different from what I'd thought. I'd never realized that they're, you know, just simple things as to how they work together as a team. People all work together in their cultures because they have to. They don't have a choice, but it's in their DNA. And everything they do is so simple and so beautiful. And we live in such a complex world with it where we make everything so difficult. It's all smoke and mirrors and all, but they're deeply spiritual people. They're very well connected to stuff that we just don't even know about. I mean, some of their spiritual levels, you stand back, you and I have discussed certain things, you go, wow. And the public aren't ready for some of this stuff.
No.
Some of the stuff one thing I've learned is to listen and learn. Don't have to agree with everything they say. Not everybody will agree with you and me.
It's an interesting story at the end of the day. Take from it what you can. But I mean, my goodness, these stories are perplexing. They really are. And you know what, Charlie, you just mentioned a very good thing, is that there is a very big community aspect. It's this idea of Ubuntu, which is, you're very familiar with the concept of Ubuntu, Charlie. I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing about what it is I'm doing, what it is we're doing in Earth United. As you understand, we are heading towards public court proceedings.
Yeah.
And essentially, we are stepping out in our own jurisdiction within the realm of common law, away from maritime admiralty, corporatized law, into law of the sea, and not into law of the land. And we're exercising our rights because we're educating people on their rights, and we're exercising our rights. And people forget that you have the right to actually hold a court proceeding and to, as the people, prosecute those that have committed a loss, harm, or injury towards the community or towards the people. And this is something the court systems and the systems at large and these private corporations that are masquerading as governments have gone ahead and hidden from us. Yeah. They've hidden us our rights and the nature of our system, and the fact that you've seen the European agreements and all of that, and all these legislations that are coming out and this and that, and they are a bit scary at face value. But my message is, guys, if you actually understand that your compliance with the government is actually optional, and that the government's in the birth certificate fraud, it's exactly that, it's fraud. So, if you get into any court proceeding, even paying taxes optional, and they get you to a point, I was speaking to a guy the other day that was saying, I literally just addressed the fact that, I'm not paying a fraudulent government. Yeah. I'm not paying it. He addressed the birth certificate fraud and so forth and so on. He's like, I'm not paying you guys. In court, they did nothing. They couldn't do anything.
No.
They couldn't do anything.
No.
And this is how, it's so simple, Charlie. It's so bloody simple, but it's been hidden from us. And the only way I can explain that is black magic, spells, these words in this legalese judicial world that has just convoluted the daylights out of us, confused things that actually are very simple. You're born, your rights. Nobody owns me. Nobody must harm me. I mustn't harm someone else. I mean, what I'm doing is very dangerous. So when I came into the show last time, I was actually, I'm not going to lie to you, I was very scared, Charlie, because I've had a couple of threats. I didn't really know you, and as well as I do, the threats that exist out there. And I've had a couple of attacks on what it is that we're doing. Fortunately enough, our structure has been quite watertight in the way in which we've developed the operational capability of our thing. But, I was just in a very and that passion's good. I hope I can get back into it because, it's these relevant times when the passion comes out and when it doesn't come out. But the point is that the message was so important. My message was, look, guys, don't make the assumption that I don't know about Trump and that I don't know about the intricacies of what's going on. Trust me, I do. Just like Charlie, I speak to my military consultants and so forth and so on. And you know what? Me and Charlie were discussing this stuff we know about Trump. I cross-referenced my own understanding with Trump that you guys, we're not seeing in the conversational sphere. And we're not seeing it there because, I mean, boy, oh boy, if I had to be at the forefront of having that conversation, I'd be, and you as well, Charlie, we'd be crucified at the stake. We would. So it's all about speaking about what's relevant and what's useful now for us to deal and work with. So I'm in a position now where I'm saying, look, guys, I'm not condemning Trump. But right now, I don't want to speak about Trump because there's something that's a lot more in my own personal capacity, in my own personal spirit and energy. There's something that is banging at my heart. And that is for me to come out and say to every individual that, cool, great, whatever positive is a positive. But my friends, there's a test here. There's a test and there's a calling for each and every single one of us to step up to the plate and take control and ownership of our own rights and our own environment.
Mhm.
You cannot expect to proceed properly within the consciousness of man, and man means consciousness, right?
Yeah.
You cannot properly expect to proceed forward, to get rid of all the deception, get rid of all the evil, to get rid of this because someone else has done it for you and you've done squiddly squat by yourself because you haven't answered that test. You haven't answered that call and that destiny within you. And this is coming up from a spiritual perspective now, is that, my friends, you're not here to sit back and just watch a couple of videos and to get by. No. Let me come wake you up to make you understand that if you are in a position to logically make sense of what it is that I'm saying, then you can really come to the understanding that everyone needs to pick up a bloody spade and a hammer and a chisel, and we need to get to work. Yes, some people might clear the ground in certain aspects and that are necessary, like, but it is up to us to take responsibility and accountability, because this is the world we're going into. And I can guarantee you right now that if you aren't one of the people that are getting off your ass and doing something and collaborating and contributing, you will be left behind. You're going to be left behind, because what's happening now is, look at our environments. Our environment is determined and depicted by the people that have taken control over it. So our society, our experience, our day-to-day life is a byproduct of those that have been in control of our environments. Google, Facebook, the Satanists, so forth and so on. And us, the people, we are equally as fault as the bad guys, because we've sat on our bloody asses and we've done nothing but wait for something to be done for us. And now we're in a position where people are dying of starvation in my country, my fellow brothers and sisters, these children here, all over the world. There's homeless people, even in the UK, there's homeless people. And it's just ridiculous to think that our consciousness is in such a retarded, it's retarded. A mentally disabled person is not retarded. A logical person that has the capability to do something, but is doing nothing to help their fellow brothers and sisters, that is retarded. Okay. So what it is that I want to come forward and say is that, these are very big claims that I'm coming forth with. Trust me, I have self-awareness of what it is that I'm saying, but I'm not only coming to you and saying, hey, wake up, let me point a bloody finger at you, get up your ass, grab a spade, grab a hammer. No. We've actually gone ahead, we've created the organization, and we are continuously working on essentially making it easier and providing the tools for people out you like yourselves watching this to participate. So I'm not just coming and saying, hey, participate, but I'm actually looking at it from a core perspective and saying, well, this is how you do participate. So, who am I? I'm Perez Casanova. I'm a 28 South African individual that's created an organization called Earth United. The link will be in the description below, as well as my YouTube channel. But please go onto the website. Educate yourself on what it is that I'm saying. We won't get into too much detail here, Charlie, because I like to progress the conversation. But essentially, we have a solution, the solution. And it is the solution because it's looking at the core of the problem. Now, from an operational perspective, if you want to solve any issues or problems, you don't want to, look at aspects of the problem. Cut a head of the hydra and then, wait for the head to grow back or hope the head doesn't grow back. You want to kill the whole beast. How do you kill the whole beast? You get to the core of the problem. What is the core of the problem? The core of the problem is that people are in this unbelievable illusion that their governments have any jurisdiction, control, and ownership over them. Why is that the problem? Because when you are born, you're converted from law of the land to law of the sea. In the British Birth Certificate Act, it says right there that this Birth Certificate Act only applies to those born at sea.
Yeah.
Were you born at sea, Charlie?
No.
No, you weren't. Were you, unless you're a pirate born on a ship or something, but that doesn't even matter because you live on the land.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's crazy, man. They've literally, it says it in their documents. Okay. So what I'm coming forward and my buddy, Christopher James, I love him to bits. We're going to come on the show next time together, Charlie, but Chris is going to come on by himself next time. We'll schedule that because he is an explosive wrecking ball of truth, right? He's been educating me. We work together like, you know what's so funny? Our initials, my initials is JPC and he's a CPJ. It's an anagram of each other reversed.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. And, we work so well together, man. Like, if you know what's happening in the background, we have got together so many organizations that are on board with this. These are thought leaders. These are guys that are solutions orientated, okay?
Mhm.
You guys can point fingers at me. You can ridicule me. You can do whatever you want. But my question to you is, what are you doing but sitting on your ass, pointing at fingers to those that are actually out there participating, okay? I know that sounds a bit harsh, but I have to put it towards you like this to help get it into your heads, the situation we're in and what's required of each individual going forward right now. So going back to what I was saying, the issue is that these governments, which are private corporations, the only thing that gives them power is the fact that we are unconsciously coercing ourselves into their system that they had, non-consensually signed us up into at birth. And now we're in a situation where we're using their economic systems that are not backed by any physical intrinsic value, that have led us in a position where, you've got all this money lending to these private corporations. Give me a break. What the hell? You're talking about trillions and trillions in debt. Who's it owned to? Private families, private corporations. You know this as well as I do, Charlie. It's just ridiculous. It's all staring us in the face, but it's all hinges on this whole birth certificate issue, right? So when you look at that, you say, okay, well, look at the system. It's a system of slavery. But where do I engage with the system of slavery? The moment I'm born, okay, the system of slavery signs me up. It's not a contract because you need consent to enter a contract.
Yep.
And it's fraud because of that.
Yep.
It's mass scale bloody fraud.
Yep.
So when everyone's looking at, the European trade agreements and Brexit and blah, 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 blah. It's all just a bloody distraction to keep you in the system of, oh my God, we are owned by the government and we need to be worried about the statutes, acts, and regulations that they're putting in place. And it's like, no, you don't. And the only reason you're worrying about that is because you don't understand your rights.
Correct.
You don't understand your rights. You don't
Absolutely
understand the
correct.
system. You don't understand the history and the conception of the system. You don't understand the difference between legal and lawful. You don't understand the difference between the jurisdictions, and you don't understand your rights. So what it is that we're saying is we're coming forward, and this is my message, we're solutions. We get the problem. Sometimes I speak about the issues because it's a bit curious. I do it out of entertainment. It's a guilty pleasure. But for the most part, I'm very focused, laser precision. I'm here to speak about solutions. If you don't want to speak about solutions, then, that's fine. That's okay with me. But if we're having a conversation right now, unless we've decided we're not going to speak about solutions, we're going to speak about solutions. You best believe it. Because I'm in a situation where my heart is, just like you, Charlie. I love what you're doing. You're getting the truth out there. You're getting these conversations out there. You're contributing. You're participating. You're giving me the platform to speak about the solution. Thank you very much. I appreciate the daylight of that. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. But I'm in a position now where we've gone ahead, we're saying we're having these public court proceedings, right? What does that mean? That means that us, the people, are essentially getting together and holding our public court within our jurisdiction, in the jurisdiction of the land. Mm-hmm. Guys, you have to understand these governments fear this. Mm-hmm. They fear us finding out this. And I'm not going to lie to you. My life is at risk, okay? But it's at, people have tried this on a smaller level, have died. We have learned from that and we've understood we need to do it on a big level. We need at least 100,000 people in each of these countries, and all these countries need to do it together so they're not alone. We need to live stream it. We need to broadcast it. We need to make everyone aware of it. We've even got applications we've developed with emergency buttons to keep track of our health and et cetera and so forth and so on, because we have to tackle this from a very large, innovative points of view. So look, I know I've just gone ahead and said, look, my life is at risk. Now, let me explain something to you. I'm doing this very confidently because I'm a man of faith and I'm a man of God. And I don't have a military. I don't have a private security team. So the only thing I can rely on is my intricate understanding of the fact that my consciousness is creating my reality. And right now, we're in a very pivotal point in time where consciousness is raising to such an extreme level that our thoughts are being created more than ever. This is why, for the last 12 years, you've been switched on and awoken for how long, Charlie? And you've been wanting to see the world and the truth come out. And so have I, and there's been a lot of people. Now we're seeing the manifestation of that desire, correct, Charlie? We're seeing it happen. So what I'm saying is that this manifestation ability on a mass collective level is super accelerated. And we can go into the science of that, but I'm not going to get into the science of that. because you can look at my channel and you can see a thing I called, I did some documentaries that go intricately in the science of this, of consciousness and physiology and DNA, and all the evidence is there. So what I'm saying is that we're getting to a point where our thoughts are like super accelerating, and our actions and our thoughts have never had as much impact as they would now. And this is why, Charlie, you got 160,000 subscribers out of nowhere. Dude, that's the fastest. I've never witnessed myself a faster growing channel. But this is the time we're in. We're in a time where people who decide to participate will be justly rewarded. It will come to fruition. So this gives me safety and understanding that I will be safe, because I'm in my own bubble of consciousness. I'm in my own bubble of, I'm going to do this. I understand the risks, but the risks don't apply to me because they're not in my beliefs. It's like if you play sports, if you're a football player, you're thinking about victory, success, crossing the finish line. And you get to that finish line. You imagine it, you're in that victorious state. I'm in that victorious state. A lot of people will look at me, they'll be like, who's this guy? Where's he getting all this confidence from? I'm getting it from my belief, my faith, and my actions, my participation. My friends, the work we've done in the background will blow your minds. I've got a meeting today with South African Council we put together. We got councils and organizations all over the world, in the UK, in Canada, in Australia. It'll blow your mind if you knew the operation we've got running in the background. So what I'm saying to you guys is wake up to the fact that, okay, there's Trump and this and that, and that's positive. Thank you. But if you really want to make sure we proceed forward, you need to participate and be there to be one of those that put an end towards this ancient, satanic, Babylonian, Sabbatean cult system. And we're saying we have that solution. We've got trained common law specialists and correspondents in each of these countries, even in the UK. But now what we're saying is here's a solution. It's not our solution. I don't own the bloody solution. But we are the ones that are bringing it forward and spearheading it and putting the operational infrastructure in place to support it so that we can reach out to you guys in the UK or wherever it is that you're watching this world, Australia, and say, look, we got the infrastructure in place, but it's up to you guys to take account and we got the common law correspondents and specialists in place, but it's up to you guys to take responsibility and accountability for executing this within your region. We can only do so much. I mean, we're two men here. You don't understand the work we're doing. Okay, let me give you a little breakdown of my operational capability and my own skill set. Okay, I'm a graphic designer. I'm a videographer. I'm a special effects designer. I 3D model, sound engineering, 3D animation, brand strategy, digital marketing, web development, coding, creative brand communications, brand developments. Okay, I literally do all of these things. I've trained myself. I'm qualified. I'm a qualified brand specialist and multimedia specialist, but I've learned all of these things myself. And it's put me in a position now where now it's like, okay, well, now I know why I learned all of those things, because it put me in a position where we created this organization. I've got the business experience. I've got all of this because it has to get treated as a business. All of you guys that sit there getting your job seekers allowance from your government that is now put you on the dole, and you guys are sitting all comfortable saying, oh, you're asking for money and this and that and that. Did my camera turn off? Oh, my camera's turn off.
No, you're fine.
People ridicule me. They're like, oh, you're asking for money, blah, 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 blah. Oh, please, you're sitting on your bloody ass, getting your job seekers allowance. And I live in South Africa, where we got a 30% unemployment rate. And you know what they say, Charlie? If you can succeed in business, and you did succeed in business in South Africa, Charlie, they say, if you can succeed in business in South Africa, you can succeed in business anywhere in the world. I have to treat this as a bloody business. You think that you get the results you get from being like, oh yeah, no, let's just be good people and just, we'll be virtue signal and, I don't need anything and this and that. You're going to get nowhere. You're going to get nowhere. I'm guaranteeing you now. So we have to tackle this from a perspective where we are looking at the sustainability of this project, where we are putting all these contingencies and methods in place. So, so long story short, guys, this is where we are. Go to the website, go to my YouTube channel, and please orientate yourselves with what it is that I'm saying. Sign up to the network. And look, I'm not capturing data. I couldn't give a crap about data. You know what I mean? Once the solution's over, do yourself a favor, sign yourself off the network. I don't really care. I just need to secure my freedom, and I need to secure my life, and I need to be able to ensure that I can touch it and hold it and feel it. okay, in order to feel safe and confident about it. And that's what we're coming here and saying. This knowledge and this level of participation and proactivity is something that you can involve in, something that you can interact with, and something that you're not hearing from however many different second-hand and third-hand sources. This is something you can get involved with. So, go onto the website, sign up to our network. Why are we getting people to sign up to our network? Okay, well, let me explain to you why. Because we are essentially cataloging all the participants in all these countries. So by the time we can monitor and see, okay, UK's hit 100K, Australia's hit 100K. Okay, we got about 4 to 3 countries. Can we pull the trigger now in this year? Okay, yes, we can. Let's press it. Because we're only going to get one shot at this. I can guarantee you right now. Guys, you got to remember, there is a potentiality of civil war. There's a potentiality of all sorts of crazy stuff. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we're putting you on the network. We're essentially communicating to you. We have the application coming out. The application is going to connect you in your direct regions. It's not come out yet, but people have demanded safety, and they don't feel safe because they don't know who else is they connected to. Now, Charlie, you got 160,000 subscribers on your channel. How great would it be if they're all sort of like mapped out, not the exact location, but they were all of a sudden put in chat groups in their direct town, and now all of a sudden they're getting together. And they're communicating and this and this and that. So, Charlie, that's where it is that I'm at. I think in the next show, I'd like to speak about what the new future world will look like. And I love that you mentioned the community aspect of the Zulus, because what you guys have to understand is people are so worried about government disappearing. But before these colonists came to South Africa, we were just fine. We had our tribal communities. And this is what we're heading back towards, Charlie. We're heading towards community governance, self-governing models. We're heading towards a decentralization of governance and the decentralization of power. And we're putting back the power back in the people's hands. But in order to do that, you need to restore law. Right now, law does not exist. Okay, because this judicial system and these legal systems are all built upon the basis of fraud. So there is no law. How can you expect anything to go right? And this is where I get a little bit worried, because I just want to make sure that we have total control of the environment going forward to ensure that whatever positive leaps we make going forward with whoever the hell helps us get there, we need to make sure ourselves that we restore law and we get back into a position where we're in these communal decision-making processes where as a community we can come together and we can decide what's best for us, what it is, because we don't want people making decisions for us. And that's what I'm very afraid of. Okay, this is why we're doing what it is that we're doing. I understand Trump and understand this and that, and I think it is quite positive, but I'm not totally sure. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to comment on it, but I do have this fear in my mind that whoever's going to come forward and redetermine the new environment after the reset, there is going to be some vulnerabilities there, and it would be naive to assume that there isn't. So we're coming towards the end of a Babylonian era. I don't want to go back, guys. I don't want to go back to another 6,000 years of enslavement. Please, no.
You're absolutely bang on right. That if you do nothing, you're complicit. You're part of the problem. If you're not doing anything about it, you're part of the problem. And what Jesse's just said there is so important about common law. Common law is incredibly simple. I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me. I don't steal from you, you don't steal from me. It's about that. That's all it is. All this other bullshit that's out there about the laws that have been changed to do with corporate law and taxation law and all this, complete and utter bullshit. It's been made up by man. It's completely a fraud. But as long as I don't hurt you and I don't steal from you and you don't hurt me and don't steal from me, that's the fundamental principles of common law. But the laws that they've, we heard the other day that since government's got in, they've created 3,000 other laws. Hang on, really? Really?
Legal policies, not laws, Charlie, legal policies.
Exactly right, because they're all fraudulent. But Jesse and I are trying to expose that. And he's absolutely right about, if you can run a business in Africa, in South Africa, you can run a business anywhere in the world. We set up a business over there with a game reserve, bringing people up there. And it was at the time the mobile phone had just come out. And we were offering a mobile phone as a free incentive to come on a presentation. They wouldn't come on a presentation. We had to go to their house because they wouldn't leave their house. But they would leave if they could stay at a game reserve, but they had to have a braai laid on as well. So it was hard work. So hard work to get them out of their houses. So you're right about the back.
A braai is a barbecue, by the way, for the guys not in South Africa.
But it's definitely worth having. And I often look back at my life in South Africa and think, because a guy in the UK made an awful lot of money out of reggae sauce, which is a barbecue sauce, and you had the perfect one out there, monkey gland sauce. That could have been marketed beautifully, but it had nothing to do with monkeys or glands, but it was a barbecue marinade.
That's so random. Monkey gland sauce. Where do they even come up with the
I don't know where they come up with the name, but it used to be a really good marinade, a really good barbecue sauce. Everyone in South Africa knows about it, but when you take it outside of South Africa, people go, monkey gland sauce, what's that? But yeah, it's a cultural thing over there that's beautiful. You learn when you travel to places. You look at the law of the jungle. The law of the jungle is you don't steal from me, I don't steal from you. I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me. And it's very tribal as well, which is interesting to watch the tribal. Well, if he says do it, we do it. You know, it's an education. And then you realise that England is actually fairly tribal. And you go, really? You know, you're either conservative or you're Labour, or America's tribal. You're either a Democrat or Republican. It's, oh dear. We haven't learned anything from history, have we? But now we're learning. And the other thing you said about Trump, look, Trump is just a figurehead at the end of the day.
Yeah, we know that.
The team behind him, whether you love him or hate him, is irrelevant. The most important thing is he's on a journey resetting the world's moral compass. When he's reset the moral compass, people like Jesse and I have to hold him to account. We need an opposition to hold him to account. But at the moment, he's doing the right things. But the problem is with power. In the history of the world, power has corrupted.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. So we need to make sure that when he gets this reset and everything done, that we hold him to account as well. But back him on the journey to get rid of what's evil, to get rid of the paedophile gangs and everything else that's so corrupt and that we'll become more and more aware of, but also to hold him to account when we're through this. If it's him that's still leading it or whoever does lead it, we need to be able to, these people need to be.
Well, all of us, that's the thing. It's going to be all of us leading this.
Awesome.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm saying you need to participate. You need to step up. But, you know, right now, Trump, you know, yes, it's global, but it's American for the most part. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to solve immediately our issues here or in any other country. So what I'm saying is that, like, guys, we're gonna take this into our own hands. It's so important. Please do not lose the importance of what it is that I'm saying. We have to have these public court proceedings. Okay, Chris just put a claim forward last week. Wow. I mean, we're gonna make a video on it now, but essentially, these judges are going to be running from the bar after this claim because, you know, he's went straight for them, and there's no ways they can get out of it. So we're literally, you know, we're disenfranchising the judges and so forth and so on. But we're leading up to these public court proceedings, and this is going to be beautiful because it's going to be historical for all of you guys to come forward and essentially support these.
Just one point on that. Trump is actually helping us on that journey, because I learned very, very early on, and I'm talking 3 to 4 months ago, when we were talking about the arrests that had happened. Most of the arrests you won't have heard of. But they made it very clear to me, we're taking down the corrupt judges, barristers, and lawyers. Now, they wouldn't mean anything to most people because we wouldn't know who they were. But they were removed by Trump, these corrupt judges, where these people run to. So he's already started the journey. And I'm sure that he'll be removing or helping us to remove the judges.
Well, he already has. As you've just said, there's a certain level of contribution that has been created. So now what I'm saying is, okay, thanks, Trump, for giving us the wood on the spear. Now, we have the spearhead, and we're gonna shove that straight into the heart of this beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? This is what people need to understand, is that I think Trump is essentially awoken up to the people, because there's only so much America can do, right?
Yep.
Really, okay? But what it is doing is awakening us up to the corruption. I'm not gonna disregard that.
Yep.
And it has put us in a position where we can put forward a campaign like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think Trump in the back of his head's thinking, okay, well, here we've opened the door. Now it's up to you guys to kill the beast.
Sure.
You hear what I'm saying? I really think that.
I agree.
Okay?
Totally agree with that. I'm totally on exactly that line. He's not going to come into Africa and remove your corrupt government, your corrupt barristers, your corrupt judges. He's not going to do that. He's going to show you who's corrupt, and then you've got to get off your fat
Yeah.
backside and do something about it. You
Yeah.
can't just sit there and wait for Jesse to do it, and his team, and Charlie and his team. You've got to stand up.
Yeah.
He's going to expose them for what they are. You now have to, he's calling to action. He's done the hard work. Now you've got to deal with it.
I mean, guys, think about it. You're talking about a whole world. You're talking about like what, 7 billion people.
Mhm.
So you have to be realistic about this. You know, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Charlie. You hit the nail on the head. I'm glad we're on the same page with this. You know, I really am. This is some very important information that gives a new perspective towards the whole Trump situation that I don't think people are speaking about, because people are having this very one-sided discussion where it's like Trump, 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 Trump. Okay, cool. What about us?
Mhm.
What about us? What do we do? How do we act?
Mhm.
You know, and this is the thing. We need to put ourselves in this conversation. And this is what I'm saying. You know, I'm not here to be like, I'm the savior, I'm the leader. You know, somebody said to me in my comments, they said, I need to run for some sort of governance or whatever in America. I don't know what they said. I laughed at it. I'm like, there's no ways I'm getting involved in politics. No. We're destroying politics at the end of the day. Get this in your head. We're eviscerating politics, because politics is just absolute nonsense. It's a societal top-down decision-making process where the people at the top are making decisions for everyone else. It's not a community decision-making process where it's a horizontal decision-making process. So, you know, and I speak to politicians here locally and stuff, and, you know, I have to educate them and be like, guys, look, I mean, this train's happening one way or another, and you guys need to get this in your head, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and there's going to be no space for politicians going forward.
Look what he's doing there. He's exposing the corrupt mayors, the corrupt leaders. He's the president. He could send in the military and overrule them, but he's not done that. He could very easily send the military into martial law, get them out.
I mean,
he hasn't done it. He's exposing them, and he said to them, if you need my help, I'm here. But he's exposing them for what they are.
It's like a communist country, Charlie. Like, you're not going to go destroy a communist country from the outside. You're never going to destroy. You're going to make communism stronger.
Of course you are.
Communism can only destroy itself internally.
Yep.
Do you get what I'm saying? So if China, for example, is experiencing, like, I don't know, you probably saw all those weather, they hit one onslaughts of insane weather conditions, and their food crops and stuff have been decimated. And obviously the trade and this and that. So, you know, I think Trump definitely helped out with that. But, you know, he almost like, he took the first step for everyone. And now it's in a position where, you know, China's going to destroy itself from the inside, because when people are starving and there's no food, and you know, the social credit system and all this nonsense, they're going to rise up and they're going to take care of their own region. So that's what I'm saying. That's what Charlie's saying. We need to come forward and we need to take care of our own region. And that's what we're doing. We're going to go to these courts. We're going to, you know, Boris Johnson and all his buddies and his cronies. This is what we're saying, guys. We're going to arrest them. Okay. And what's so beautiful about common law is, you know, when you put a claim in a common law court, it's not a claim from a person to a private corporation. No. Claims within the realm of private corporations, and remember, your birth certificate is a private corporation, right? Yeah. And that's what's happening in this legal world. It's claims versus corporations, right? But in common law, it's man versus man. Yeah. Okay. So in the corporate law, which is essentially these legal judicial systems, it's so convoluted because remember, it's the world of fiction. So it's the world of make-believe. They can go ahead and make up any language they want to. And of course, it's going to be convoluted. Of course, you're going to have to pay a crap load of money for an advocate or a lawyer to represent you. What are they representing you as? They're representing you as a living man, as a legal fictitious corporate entity created in your name. And because the government created it, they own it. Whatever you create, you own, right? Yep. So, you know, if I go ahead and I create the cell phone, I own it. So I determine the rules that this cell phone lives in. You don't touch your cell phone, Charlie. This cell phone's my cell phone. That's what the government's done. Yeah. They've gone ahead, they've created your birth certification records, and they own it. That's how common law works. It's the creator versus the created. You are the creator, okay? So that's what they're doing when you're going into these court systems. They're saying, are you Charlie Ward? And you pick up your birth certificate and you're like, yes, I am. And it's like, no, they're not referring to you. They're referring to the fictitious entity made within your name that's unlawfully converting you into your jurisdiction. And there's a Roman maxim in law that says, those that be deceived, let them. Okay, that's a Roman maximum law.
Yeah.
Okay, and remember that all judicial frameworks have been derived from Roman law. The word civil means Roman law. If they ask you, are you a citizen of the UK? And you say yes. No, don't say that, because they're asking, are you a private employee of a private corporation known as the United Kingdom? And all of a sudden you're going ahead and you're representing yourself as this. And remember, the lawyers, the judges, the advocates, they've all made an oath towards the bar. Bar means bank. It's all the banking systems. And I know we spoke about the Vatican and so forth and so on. Yes, but it's also they say all roads lead to Rome. Cool. But Rome leads to the Rothschilds, because, the Rothschilds came and put everyone in a very precarious position of infiltration and positional power. And essentially, it's us against the banks. It's us against the Sabbatean cults. It's us against these Zionists, right? Yeah. That are not Jewish. They're not Christian. They're not Catholic. And remember, as I explained to you, the Sabbateans had a conversion of people who used to be Jews, but weren't actually Jews, because they were Sabbateans is what it was that they are. And they converted to Catholics because it was a deal that they made. I can't remember in what country it was, but this is in historical records. So what it is that I'm going ahead and saying is that in common law courts, it's fantastic, because we get together without this convoluted legal, extremely expensive process where you have to essentially get down on your knees and pray to the government. Government, please give me legal recourse. I beg you. You are the ultimate decider. No. Common law, we are the ultimate decider. So, and common law is swift, Charlie. You know this. It's swift. I mean, you put the claim there, doop, doop, doop. And then essentially, like, we got some police backing, we got some military backing in Australia. We're getting these conversations going, because after we put forward these claims, remember what's happening with the claims. We're addressing the unlawful conversion at birth, which is the first claim, which is the first trespass, right? Yep. It's fraud. We're addressing fraud. And then what it is that we're doing is we're putting essentially warrants out for arrest. And then we're going ahead and we're arresting those guys. That's why we need 100,000 people. That's why we need to be collaborating and communicating, because we're getting to this point where it's all about the enforcement now. The police can't enforce it because it's outside of their jurisdiction. They can't help us, but they can help us as people stepping into the people's jurisdiction. But as police or whatever it is, there's the police, I'm sure police will help us. This is why we're not enemies of the police. We're educating them. We're making friends with them, and we're letting them know that this is the law. And like, look, you're actually complicit in fraud unconsciously, So get out now while you still have the chance, because a lot of people are going to be very upset. And once they actually put the foundational structure in place, there is a potentiality that your acting members of the police and whoever it is, if the people decide it, are going to have a bullet in their head or hang or whatever it is. It's not up to me. It's up to the people to decide, because remember, the people have the ability to go in their own jurisdiction and decide what is the recourse, what is the remedy. And so essentially, old Boris Johnson and all the guys sitting in the BBC, you guys better start running. Because once we get this right, which we will get this right, and whatever, these guys in Australia, we're coming to arrest you. Yeah. And then we're going to put you on a trial in a grand jury made up by the public, with all of the public support, at least 100,000 people. And you're going to meet your maker. You're going to face the music. And this is what I love about this. We, the people, have the ability to get our own justice. What that justice is, it's up to you guys to decide.
Yeah, but karma's a wonderful thing, and I've been looking at General Flynn, and I would love to see him being the judge after what he's been through. They've been attacking him with absolute lies, just tried to destroy a very, very good standing
media. We are coming for the media.
Oh yeah,
in South Africa, you remember a radio station called 702?
Yes,
sure you do.
Yes.
Okay. So 702, my mom would always listen to that when we would drive home.
Yeah.
And it's a talk show radio station. And it's like very, they got a lot of English sounding accents on there and stuff and so on, John Robbie, for the Money Show and whatever. And they've got these very eloquent voices like, like South African social commentary. And my man, even in South Africa, you know, we know that the media is fake, but when you see it happening in a country like South Africa that has no idea of the level of corruption and deception, and you're listening to these guys, especially with the COVID situation, and you don't hear one single journalist oppose the official narrative. You don't hear one.
Not one.
And you're like, as soon as I'm coming for you, I'm coming for you, because you guys, it was your responsibility to the people as journalists to inform us on what was happening and to explore all avenues of the story at hand. And you guys were sold out from the very get-go. And South Africans, because they're so brainwashed, like at least the British are very awoken, right? Because your history, at least there's a lot of traces and clues there for you to see. But in South Africa, Charlie, I mean, after apartheid and all of that, I mean, they just made it all about race, and you know this. And they've hidden our history from us. But South Africa is the Illuminati's asshole. Excuse my language.
You're not wrong.
You don't understand it. I got a military consultant friend. If you go on my channel, there's a video called V. It's I can't remember, something Babylon. There's a playlist there. We speak about the underground tunnel networks because I get this information. Now, they thought Australia was the worst because of how vast it was and the whole thing that happened in Melbourne. And I dealt with a human trafficking organization called Operation Railroad, some guys there. And they were like helping from an external point, but they said, 2,000 or 30,000 kids and women were rescued. And as you know, they don't survive because of whatever, this and that. And she came back and said to me, she was just briefed, and they thought Australia was the worst until South Africa. And you're talking about underground tunnel networks that go to 20 kilometers underground. And she's saying South Africa's the worst because they're dating these tunnels back to 1,000 years, Charlie. Okay. Now you need to ask yourself, what? 1,000 years? What do you, 20 kilometers underground? What do you mean? Okay. What do you mean? And this is why I say, guys, don't jump to any conclusions just yet. You want to believe there's no this and there's no that and this is that and this is that. You haven't even scratched the surface. Keep your mind open and wait and be discerning and do what Charlie does. I love you to bits for this, Charlie. Your mind's open. You're looking at everything. And there's conversations myself and Charlie have that we just said we're not going to have on here. We'll get crucified at the stake. But 1,000 years, Charlie. And in South Africa, we're looking at reporting about 1.3 million kids missing a year. Okay. Now that number is probably a lot higher. Okay. And we have a lot of mining in South Africa. As you know, Rustenburg produces 2/3 of the world's platinum. But regardless, we have the highest level of inequality that kills me to see. And we got a lot of mining, and where there's mining, there's tunnel networks. But it really doesn't actually even make sense in South Africa because our mining is only a couple of 100 years old. And you're talking about tunnel networks that are these military guys are saying dating to 1,000 years ago. And they said that they've only managed to destroy like 12% in South Africa. And it's bad. It's bad here, man. Johannesburg's apparently crawling with this stuff. I remember my mom telling me when I was younger that South Africa, it was on the news or whatever, it's like hollow. There's seismic readings and it's all Johannesburg, hollow. And if we had an earthquake, it would just sinkhole big time. We would be all underground.
I was starting to realize the value of what I learned 30 years ago when I visited these tunnels, because I had no idea. But now I've been down in these tunnels and seen them firsthand. I can talk from experience firsthand. And having been down, the first time I saw it, when I say 30 years ago, I was 30 years old. I'm now 60 years old. I saw these tunnels at 30 years old, and I was in shock then. And
I got some questions there, Charlie. Keep talking.
There was two thoughts I had. First of all, what a great place to grow cannabis, because nobody ever find out. And second of all, what a great place as a prison for lifers, for people who are in for life, because they're so secure. I mean, if you could never dig your way out of there because they're so far down.
So that's where the tunnels were, Charlie, in South Africa. Okay, but how did you explain
the ones I saw were in England? The ones I saw were in England.
In England?
Yeah.
How did you land up in that position where you were going into underground tunnels?
I was doing the security of the prisons in the UK for a company called Sensormatic. So I'd done every single prison in the United Kingdom with closed circuit television and access control. And then I was asked by one of the guys that worked for Sensormatic to look at GCHQ in Cheltenham, which is the main communication headquarters. So I went to see them. Having gone to see them, I was asked by them to have a look at some underground facilities that they need to make sure were secure. So
so you were contracted, actually.
Because I was contracted to look at the government stuff. And then my first experience was one of shock, because I was told of a location to go to, which was just a massive car park on the top of Lansdowne in Bath, with a tiny little building in the middle. And I'll be honest with you, my naivety thought it was a park and ride, because across the road there was a park and ride. I thought it was an overspill or something like that, because it looked similar to the way you buy your ticket. In the ticket office, there's a little ticket office in the middle. So when I parked my car and went into what I thought was a ticket office, I was met with this sort of reinforced glass window with a guy behind there, and I had my pass and I had my identity. Once he checked the system, he opened a door to the side, a metal door, which was like a prison door. And I was like, well, okay. And I went inside. And he said, right, sir, you're going down in the lift. And another guy then joined me with his staff.
Let me guess, there's a certain level of security clearance that you got to.
I was at level 1 of the security in the UK with doing all the prisons and GCHQ. So I had to sign agreements. At the time, it was 10 years of secret.
But in the elevators, in those floors, they had security clearance, right, in each floor?
Yeah, that's correct. So then we went all the way down to what I think was the bottom, but that I don't even know. I got down, and we were going down and down and down and down. And it was like,
scary.
I'm guessing 200, 300, 400 meters. I'm guessing. I don't know.
You're guessing. So this elevator was just like.
Yeah, and it was a big elevator. I mean,
He has a question. A big elevator, like big one, like industrial elevator.
Yeah, industrial. I'm saying probably 10, 15 foot square. 10, 15 foot, 10, 15 foot.
I don't know that in meters. Well, how many meters is it in meters?
About 3 to 4 meters.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that's pretty big, eh?
And
now, were there any buttons on there, Charlie? Like,
no, it was key operated.
Key. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So what, the key had different
settings.
Levels?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming certain keys only.
Yeah, I would guess so. I'd guess so. Because when we went down to the floor that I was looking at, there must have been 100 golf buggies down there, all electric golf buggies. So that's why the lift was so big. You get 4 golf buggies inside the lift.
Oh.
So when we came out the other side, I'm suddenly like, wow. You know, I'm 30 years old, never seen anything like this in my life. And I walk out there, and then we hop in a golf buggy, and we whiz around, and like there's golf buggies going every which way. I mean, there was hundreds of people still down there. They told me it was no longer in use. They said, oh, back in the day, before we had GCHQ, we'd have 5,000, 10,000 people down there. And I went, really? And the car park was full when I came down there. And there was people.
Oh my God! So that's what the car park's for.
The car park was people that worked in there.
Jeez. Okay.
And of course, there was areas that I didn't go into that I wasn't allowed into, but we had to make sure that there was certain security. So I don't know what was down there.
Another quick question: was it vast?
Massive. I mean, there'd be.
And what did the interior look like? Was it like sort of military base?
No, it was a pure concrete floor, like a road. The walls were white, like white paint, like here, white paint walls, white paint ceiling. There was a big central part that almost had a sky painted on it to make it look like a sky. It was like an open area.
And the lighting?
The lighting, it was all very well lit in, but there was a lot of big, massive safe doors, steel safe doors, where they told me that's where they kept all the weapons, because they said it was originally used in the First and Second World War for signals, so communications. But they also kept a lot of the storage of weaponry and ammunition down there.
Yeah, but the question is, Charlie, how far did you go underground, and how did they do that in the time of World War?
That I don't know. And
so what happened? So you're walking through here, you see a couple of steel doors. there's a whole lot of people going back and forth, and then you're helping set up the surveillance or do a maintenance check on the
Well, the
surveillance
surveillance
systems.
was an interesting one because it wasn't surveillance of all the areas. It was only surveillance and control of the access and exit points. The rest of it was no cameras.
Oh, God.
The access control was going, so the identity of cards for going in, and so it was in the system, so it recorded everybody that came in, the time they came in, they went out, and the cameras were to watch who came in and who went out, and to control who came in. But downstairs in the basement, I asked on many occasions, it'd be good to have cameras here. Going, no, we don't need them down here. And now you start to question, why didn't you need them down there? Why? With so much going on, not in the prisons, they were all on every single wing, on the exercise areas, etc., the eating areas, it was everywhere. But down here, it was only on the access and exit and the exit points. The rest of it was completely uncovered. And there was lots of areas that I was not allowed into, that I was not allowed to see. So what was there, I don't know. They told me it was no longer...
How did you feel? What is the overall feeling of being in there?
My first feeling was excitement, because I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I was like a kid. It's like, these are amazing. I've never seen anything like it. But it was also very, very chilling.
Ominous.
Yeah. And it's only now that I look back and go, because at the time, as a 30-year-old man, I wasn't looking at why they needed cameras for security. I was looking at why they needed cameras because I was going to get paid more money. It was about business. So I wasn't looking at it through the correct lens. I was looking at it to make money. So the fact they just wanted them on the exit and the entrances was I was a bit pissed off with that, because there was so many times we could have put cameras. I could have put 1,000 cameras down there for fun.
So you're just looking left, right, and center. You're like, oh my God, this is a gold mine. But they only wanted in these entrances and exits.
The entrance and the exit. The control was there. And the ventilations were huge. When you come outside, you see these huge chimneys out of the ground. And you think nothing of them. And you go, why is that there? And I was told in the years before, when I knew nothing about them, oh, that's for the train that goes under there. Then I found out there was no train that goes under there. They said it was
so they're just feeding you nonsense from the very get-go.
Right from the get-go.
And they're probably trained to do that. And now I've got a two more questions, small ones. Were they wearing military uniform? If so, what did they look like? And were they of different races, these operatives or whoever it is underground?
That I can't remember, but all the people I saw from memory were all civilian dressed.
But were they white? Were they black? Were they Indian?
It was not something that stood out. It wasn't. It wasn't like it stood out as being, oh, they're different from us.
I'm just painting a visual.
Yeah. Also, from the prisons that I worked in, and I visited at the time there was 147 prisons in the UK. I visited every single one, and when you're in there, you know, the prison officers could have been black, could have been white, could have been Indian, Chinese. There was.
You just said at work. You're sort of like in this tunnel vision.
Look, when I met Myra Hindley in Cookham Wood, who was killed all these children, what have you, with Brady, and I switched off my emotions because I was there to do a job. She was the governor, Chris Evans's gopher. She was the governor's.
Whoa! Hold up! Take this a step back, Charlie. Who is this that you're speaking about?
Myra Hindley was one of the biggest child killers in the UK.
Wow. Okay, but like, on what level?
Oh, they killed loads and loads of children. I mean, they got caught with 100, lots and lots and lots.
Is it a corporation or something?
No. These were two individuals.
Okay.
Two individuals that just killed people for the sake of it. And I had met her on many occasions in Cookham Wood Prison, but I had to switch off my emotions. I wasn't there to be judgmental. I was there to do a job. So I literally switched off. And there was because these prisons were in for so long, they tend to be the best behaved. The naughtiest ones in prison tend to be the juveniles who are in for a short time because they've got the big egos and they want to fight everybody, etc. People who are in for life for a long time tend to accept it. And they tend to just get on and they have a term in England, they do their bird, they do their time. You know, they get their head down, they remain a number. You get the odd ones like Charlie Bronson, who's always causing trouble. But most of them, they tend to know they're in for a long time. So they just get on and try and get the best life they can. And the best life you can get in a prison is either working for the governor, as they call it, as a red band, or to work in the kitchen so you can eat your own food and cook your own food as well as cooking everybody else's food, or work in the workshops, so making stuff and doing stuff. So you're unlocked in the morning, you're locked up at night, but you get the freedom in the day. So you tend to find that the better behaved ones get the better jobs inside the prison. So the people who are in for life without any chance of getting out tend to get their heads in order and say, fine, if I behave myself, I won't be locked up 23 hours a day. I can work for the governor. The governor will give me certain license to do certain things. And it's making the best of a bad job.
So, okay, that's a very hectic story. So the people who are the mass murderers that you did the job for, were they own the prison?
No, the people inside the prison that were in for mass murder.
Oh, they were in the prison. I see.
Yeah, they
I
were
get
prisoners.
it now.
They were
Sorry,
prisoners.
my bad.
They were prisoners, but because of their behavior inside the prison, they were given decent jobs inside the prison. They were prisoners.
That makes sense.
So if you're a problem in the prison, you'll be locked up. If you're not a problem in the prison, they will look for jobs for you to do in the prison. And if you're in there for 30, 40, 50 years, they will circulate you from one prison to another so that there's not too much friendship going on. But once they go to another prison, the prison governors tend to talk and say, I'm sending so-and-so to you. They're very good for this, this, and this. But at the end of the day, a prison governor wants a quiet prison. So he manages his prisoners in the way, if you lock people up too much and you treat them like shit, they will treat you like shit. It's human nature. This is human nature. It doesn't matter who you are. We react to the way we're treated.
Of course, I mean, yeah. So let me tell you an interesting story, Charlie, before... So if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see there's a very close friend of mine. She's a military intelligence consultant. We can't reveal our identity right now. We call her V. And, she sort of vets people for me, helps keep us safe and stuff. She even vetted me before, we'd even really started chatting. And she, as I said, the reason she is still so active right now is because she's this external consultant. She was responsible for helping the military set up the fiber optic cabling initially to convert from analog to digital. Now, you understand analog communication is a very secure line. In fact, if you want to be as secure as possible, you're going to communicate, the white hats and all these guys are communicating on analog frequencies because, you can't really track them. But digital you can, because everything's coming through from a secure point of communication. So she didn't know it at the time, but she was actually setting up something called the Hammer. Now, the Hammer is an underground facility in Oregon, I believe, which is just this vast server rooms, which is essentially the central super administrative point of the World Wide Web globally, right? And what she told me is they actually have the ability to shut down the Chinese firewall, because when the Chinese actually got, the internet, whatever, they told them about they gave them their own administrative privileges, but they didn't make them aware of the super administrative privileges that Edward Snowden was actually a psyops for. He was actually came there to divert the attention away from the fact that they were porting in some sort of underground tunneling to allow them to set something up. Basically, because of that, you can imagine now she literally was one of the people who were building the Hammer. Okay. So this means they have all access on any information on digital, platforms, devices, so forth and so on. So some of the conversations we have that I'm not even going to get into speaking about now, will just blow your mind apart in actually what's actually happening behind what is known to be happening. Now, one of the stories she said, there was in New York, her job was to, just like you were installing CCTV, but she was installing fiber optic cabling. They sent her to go a couple of floors under the building, about 4 floors underground, 4 or 5 floors, She said she got to like the 4th floor before the 5th floor, and there was a security clearance floor, and they basically, the New York police or whatever, essentially gave her a gun, and they said, if you see anything down there, shoot it. And she's like, whatever, okay. She goes underground to this next floor, but it's more like more of a raw tunnel or whatever. I need to ask her again, create a better visual image. And she's doing her job, setting up whatever, doing whatever she's doing. And the next thing, she's looking, and these kids start creeping up on her. And they are pale as pale can be. And she's just really getting nervous. They're getting nervous. They're speculative. They're not really speaking. And she's just like almost like freaking out now, trying to finish up her job. And eventually she came up. But the security clearance floor, because I asked her, I was like, well, because obviously, you know, some of these kids are in cages and whatever, but from what I understand, some of these kids are left to roam free, kids and women or whatever, you know, and adults, I'm sure, because some of them are like 5th generational, right? And, but I asked her, I was like, well, how the hell do they make sure, you know, they're not just escaping? And they're like, well, no, because the floor just above that had security clearance, which reminds me of this whole camera story. You're speaking about putting cameras on the entrances and exits. And she eventually came up. I mean, she was like 20 at the time. You know, she came up and she's had other crazy experiences underground tunnels. Now, she has a friend in Canada, right? And as you know, Canada is sickening as well. I mean, all of these countries are sickening, right? And she has a friend that worked in a drug rehabilitation clinic. And, you know, because this lady, V, you'll see on the channel, she is the most intelligent individual I've ever spoken to. She knows everything. You know, remember, she's a telecommunications expert. So she consults on that front, and they brief her about certain things. And I can ask her about anything. Like I had somebody essentially come to me and try feed me false information that they were a bodyguard working for David Rothschild. And that David Rothschild had stolen a decommissioned submarine and then weaponized the nuclear whatever on there. And essentially were trying to sabotage me and getting to run that story. So what I did is I just got her to vet them. And she's like, oh, well, this guy's speaking crap because David Rothschild had been killed 2 years ago. This was second attempt on his life. Nobody really knows this. But, you know, right then and there, she didn't even have to vet him. She knew he was speaking crap. But anyway, the point is that, so you know, if you speak to her, you're going to speak to her more because she's got the answer to everything, anything you're ever going to ask. And this is where we get deep into understanding Earth's history and the exopolitical situation. It gets deep, guys. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, so this person, a friend of hers that worked at the drug rehabilitation clinic said, have you ever heard about the tunnel people? And she's like laughing because she's like, you know, it's a bit hilarious because nobody knows about it, but there are certain people that have known about this for years.
Yeah.
And, you know, the drug rehabilitation individual said that, you know, we deal with all these drug addicts and these guys. It's one of those centers where they in Canada, they keep giving them more drugs. It's pretty satanic, right? I mean, what the hell? You're trying to cure the poison by giving them more poison. But, you know, conversation aside. And essentially she said that these drug addicts were in these underground tunnels for whatever reason. I need to ask her to clarify that story a bit more. But they said that they would come up and they would experience all this trauma, and then they would tell their stories to the people. You know, just like any rehab, these guys that come, they tell their stories, and they're like, look, I mean, we were underground here. There were snuff films. There were some stuff I'm not going to go into because if I will, you probably won't believe me. And but the tunnel people as well, and just hybridization, torture, you name it. Okay, and it's just crazy. Like this is a situation we're dealing with. And there's hybridization happening, and the story does get crazy. And please don't come to any conclusions yet, because it really gets intensely crazy. Now, you know, I love speaking to her because she educated me on the whole Trump thing, and it's helped me come to this very balanced perspective that you seem to have as well within regards to Trump, right? But she said that, look, what you're doing is completely necessary. I'm grateful for that. I really do believe that. And it's necessary because I'm reaching out to you guys to answer your destiny, and because it's going to require all of us to build this new world.
Sure.
And I just want to thank you, Charlie, for giving those like myself a chance to speak, a chance to share. Because I even look in my comment section of my YouTube channel, and it's, 80-year-old granny is saying, tell me more,
Exactly.
I'm switched on. I'm awake now. I want to know more. And it's just like, wow, and I'm sure it's on your channel as well. I look through some of your comments, and it's great. I mean, every positive is a positive.
Totally.
Okay. And that's how I look at it. So we need every positive. We need myself. We need you. We need everyone. We need all these initiatives. And that's what Earth United has done. We've created this plexus point for all these initiatives to plug in. We're dealing with, I got a scientist friend who has developed a perpetual battery. I told you this the last time, doesn't die. She's developed crazy stuff, materializers, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Charlie. Machines that just rearrange the subatomic composition of matter and all of a sudden create whatever vibrational signature you've replicated within regards to that, and so forth and so on. But my final message, Charlie, because I'm sure you have to go and I have to go, is that we are in a deeply spiritual time. And all these truths that are coming out are inevitably going to lead towards all these things I'm telling you not to have conclusions about. And some of them lie within the realm of the holographic, purely spiritual nature of reality. I'm not fond of the term spiritual reality because it almost signifies that it's separate towards us. But this is spiritual reality. It is. And we have been so cut off from it that we are so cut off from ourselves. And we're in a situation now where everyone's frantically looking at all this fear porn that they're propagating in the television, getting you to keep in this fearful state. Charlie, why are they mass sacrificing people? I just said it to you just now. You got to ask yourself the question. We got 1.3 million kids being stolen in South Africa. Okay, what are they doing with them? Okay, mass sacrifice, mass. Watch Apocalypto. Who's have you watched Apocalypto, Charlie?
No.
Okay, it was by that actor Russell. That was condemned by Hollywood when he came forward and said each studio was paid for in the blood of children.
Russell Crowe?
And as soon as he said that, they cut his... Is it Russell Crowe?
I don't know.
I think so. They cut off his Hollywood career. He made a movie. Charlie, do yourself a favor. Watch this movie. Apocalypto. Okay? It's very symbolic of this end of Babylon, the end of an era that we're going through right now. But in this movie, in this Mayan temple, they came to the community. They just stole the kids and everything, the adults and whatever. And they were just sacrificing individuals per the minute. And this goes back to the Tower of Moloch and, so forth and so on. These guys are mass sacrificing, guys. Why are they mass sacrificing? Because they're creating energetic disturbances in the planet. We might not be able to see the mass sacrifice, but on an energetic level, it's reverberating through to us. And it's affecting our consciousness. Now, for certain reasons, cosmologically speaking, and in regards to all these revelations and prophecies that were made, we're going through a huge spiritual awakening, a huge consciousness shift. So it's putting us in a position where, and I had a very interesting interview recently with a very spiritual lady, and she said, well, Jesse, is everyone going to be fine going forward? And I said to her, well, yes and no. Those that are answering the call of this like Charlie, you're doing a great job. You're making people realize the environment and the playing field. But now we need to not only look outside of ourselves, but we need to look inside of ourselves. Because what is happening inside of ourselves is going to determine what happens outside of ourselves. So I said to her that, look, you're either going to buckle, and you're going to have a really hard time for whatever reasons available, or you're going to be going through this smoothly. Now, why would you be going through this smoothly? And like yourself, you're prospering in this time, Charlie. I'm sure you've got the spiritual element towards you and your belief systems that are keeping you connected and secure in your own energy without being distraught and distracted with all the chaos and destruction that's happening out there, that's doing everything it can to steal your attention. And because of that, you're playing a very pivotal participation role and you're prospering, okay? Because you're adding value. And this is what I was saying earlier before. Anyone that answers a call towards their destiny and acts upon adding value, you will prosper in the sense that it's karma. If you give, you will get, and you will be fine. You and your families will be fine. Okay. So it's so important that you understand that this is a situation where God, you can have any definition of God, but my definition of God is all that is. Okay. Now, all that is, look at the attributes and qualities of all that is. Okay. It's pure. It's infinite. It's neutral. Okay. It's infinite. No characteristics, no attributes, no qualities, no traits. It's pure. And because that's infinite. Okay. And God is loving no matter what. Okay. God loves no matter what. Why? Because outside of this yin yang, this push and pull, this demon and this angel, there is this God level unity. Okay. And there's this age old story I like to say, and I'm going to share it with you and your audience real quick, is that, have you ever asked yourself the question, Charlie, if God exists, who created God? Right? I'm sure, I've asked myself that question. And, God for me is existence. Okay. I love ever-present divine intelligence and existence. And I asked myself the question, well, before there was existence, what was there? Well, the logical answer is nothing. But even nothing is something. Now, what are the attributes and qualities and traits of nothing? There are none. It's just pure consciousness. It just is. God is. Okay? And the age-old story is that even the elders in many cultures, the story I found, is that God got bored and lonely and did the only thing God could do, which is what can happen if nothing's happening? Anything. What is the time period for anything to happen? There is no time. There's no time. And we're in a situation where God is so infinite and expansive that God had the ability to create a reality with the illusion of limitation. God is so unlimited that God created a perceptual reality of limitation. Yeah. So we're here on earth right now to experience limitation and emotion. And right now we're so blessed and lucky in the fact that we're getting to experience this ascension from darkness to light. Sure. And it's helping us better understand ourselves and our fellow brothers and sisters. Long story short, the point I'm getting to is that please learn about yourself, go within yourself. And if you do that, you have nothing to worry about. You'll be fine.
Well, that's the perfect note to end on, Jesse. And thank you very, very much. It's been an education today. It's been absolutely brilliant. And there was an awful lot of content there today, Jesse. Thank you.
Charlie, my brother, I enjoy speaking to you every time. Thank you.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.